This ain't gonna be fun, but it's gotta be said. We have got to stop prioritizing the abuser's life over the victim. I see this happen so often. This is something that I've experienced personally. It's something that my friends have gone through. It's something that I see happening all the time on TikTok. And recently, a friend of mine reached out to me and told me about her experience with this. I'm trying to find a word that explains the rage building in my gut right now, but I don't think there is one. If this is your first time hanging out, welcome. My name is Karleigh Saunders. I'm a confidence and abuse recovery coach. Today we're talking, I'm trying really hard to like rein in my attitude, but I don't think it's gonna happen. I don't think it's gonna happen because I am so mad. For whatever reason, we find it completely appropriate to look at a survivor sharing their story, to look at a survivor who is sharing the most vulnerable part of their life and say, well, be careful, you don't want to ruin his life. Be careful, you don't want to ruin his reputation. Be careful, you don't want to make her feel bad. I don't know how many nerdy folk watch this channel, but there is a face that Naruto from Naruto makes, and it's this face right here. That's how I feel right now. And this is why survivors do not come forward. Because guess what? As survivors, we have been so broken down, so beaten down, physically and or emotionally, to the point where we feel extremely guilty for even mentioning the fact that someone hurt us. And then when we finally do speak up, you have the audacity to say, don't ruin their reputation. A survivor of abuse cannot ruin what the abuser already ruined. If you are someone who thinks it is okay, who thinks it is acceptable to tell a survivor to sit down and shut up and keep their mouth closed because you're worried about what the abuser is going to think, then you are facilitating in that, and their blood, proverbial or physical, is on your hands as well. We live in a twisted society where we feel like if we don't talk about it, if we don't think about it, then it didn't happen. Well, guess what? It happened. And the reality is that the victim's life has been forever changed. There is no more life before what happened to them. There is no more existing outside of that trauma. That is permanently etched in their life. The abuser completely ripped their life out of their hands, and you're worried about harming theirs? No, fuck no. Here's another reality. When someone gets out of an abusive relationship, when the abuser jumps into another one, they're going to convince the next partner that the prior victim was crazy. They're going to convince them that they're going to say all sorts of nonsense, so then that way they don't get believed. So now the victim is desperately looking at this other person saying, no, I don't want this to happen to you. And they are already being told that they're crazy. So now if they don't get it out somehow, and if it doesn't get to the next person, they're gonna go through the same dang thing, because an abuser doesn't pick just one person to hurt and go on their merry way. So when we don't speak up and when we don't share, there are lives at stake. And I ain't even being dramatic, that's fact. I understand that it's uncomfortable. And I understand that sometimes the details of abuse can be gruesome. I was researching today. I was looking for things that I needed to cover. I wanted to see what was in the news regarding abusive relationships and domestic violence. I wanted to see. I don't even feel comfortable. Go to YouTube and search domestic violence. Go to YouTube and search abusive relationships. And just scroll for a couple of pages. I couldn't even watch the videos. The thumbnails and titles enough made me sick. Lives are taken every single day at the hands of abusers, and yet we are worried about their reputation. And I am sick and tired of crossing paths with abuser sympathizers. I am sick and tired of seeing victims get spit on and blamed for everything. And you know what? While I'm on this rant, we need to change a lot of things. We need to stop looking at the victim and saying, why didn't you leave? And start looking at the abuser and say, why did you do that? But that's uncomfortable, isn't it? It's so much easier to look at the person who's beaten down and bruised, who hates themselves, who doesn't want to exist, and point and blame, than to turn around and look at the person that you may look up to that caused the problem. To put yourself at risk to find out what they may do. This is a backwards society. This is a backwards conversation. To the survivor, speak up. To the survivor, to the victim that doesn't feel like a survivor, to the victim that feels like they've got duct tape over their mouths, to the victim who doesn't want to wake up tomorrow, share your story. I don't care who has said what to you. I don't care how many times you've been told to shut up and to leave it alone. I don't care how many times you've been told that you need to protect someone else's reputation while your life has been forever changed. Share your story. Because here's the thing, when you share your story, it inspires so many others to do the same. And when they share their story, they inspire others. I should not have to sit here and give you permission to share about what happened to you. I should not have to give you permission to talk about your life. But the sad fact is that I do. So here I am. If you want me to print out a permission slip, you know what? I am going to create a permission slip. It'll be down in the show description. The link will be there. You can go download your permission slip. And I want you to print it out, and I want you to look at it every day. Because the reality is that your voice matters, and your voice is where the power is at. Because if you don't speak up, if you don't use your voice, if you don't share, if you don't begin to stand up for yourself, then they know that they've won. They spent the entire relationship beating the confidence out of you, either physically or emotionally, to get you to stay quiet. And to get you to stay small, and to keep you at the point where they can be forever in charge, and you feel like you still owe them something because they're somehow doing you a favor. Not anymore. And anyone who tells you otherwise doesn't need to be in your life. Anyone who tells you otherwise is just as bad as the person who did it. And I stand by that. You're allowed to share your story. And you are allowed to use your voice. You've spent far too long without it. You've spent far too long thinking that you're worthless. You've spent far too long thinking that you don't deserve better. You do. And I want you to know, I believe you. And your story can change the world. And I hope that when you're ready, you share that story because people need it. I am here doing what I do because 12-year-old me, 15-year-old me, 17-year-old me, 19-year-old me, 21-year-old me needed to hear it. So when you're ready, share your story. You deserve that. The link to the permission slip will be in the show description. No email address needed. You can just click it and download it. Keep it on hand. And what I would love for you to do is once you do that, is to send me a DM or tag me on your Instagram stories at karleigh.lynn. The link is also going to be in the show description. And take a picture with it because I want to reshare that with the world. If you want to keep it private, that's fine. You can just send me a DM. Your story can happen at your pace. I'm not saying to rush it, but when you're ready, you're allowed to. So the playlist you're going to see coming up here is going to be a playlist about where to start when it comes to healing from abusive relationships. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and never forget that you are strong, you are capable, you are intelligent, and boo, you are so freaking worthy.